if you could turn back the clock, I think certainly the majority of Honda people would probably not, if they did, vote to leave, because they would see it as basically damaging their future.
No coverage of what's going on in Swindon and the closure of a massive, iconic car plant and thousands of jobs lost. I suspect it's because there's such a drive to protect Brexit.
Of course, I wrote my application on a letter in paper, and I received a reply from Honda inviting me to an interview. I think it's dated July 1986, and that was my first interview. It was just a sense of elation. You know, it meant to me that this is my future and security for my family. So February 19th, we get a message through Sky News. One of the managers reads it out and says, "Oh, looks like the announcement's made that Honda's closing." We just laughed it off, to be honest, and thought nothing of it. It wasn't until later in the day, when we were at the meeting at the supplier, an official announcement came through. We were told in front of our managers that the plant would be closing in 2021. And you go through those emotions with anything in life, which is, if you've been a part of that for 30 odd years, how you try to take that in. So, like, well, you know, what do I do now? You know, what about my family? What about my future? What about all those people that work in the plant? 3,500 people work in that plant, and the local community, and there's 10,000 across the whole of Swindon and the outlying areas that rely on Honda as a source of employment.
Swindon has always been associated, or in living memory, with Honda. It's been the main employer here, and everything has fed off that in terms of restaurants, hotels, and other supply chains that go into it. So Honda closing is so bad for Swindon and for the people of Swindon, and incredibly sad, because none of us know really what's going to replace it.
From the move point of view, as I say, the Brexit, I believe, certainly had an impact, but I certainly don't think that when people made that vote and that decision to leave, it was based on the facts that are actually present today. It was based on probably a bit of a gut reaction, a bit of how you feel about being part of Europe and about maybe some sort of control mechanisms from Europe giving to you. And I think that's where the decisions come from. And I think if you could turn back the clock, I think certainly the majority of Honda people would probably not, if they did, vote to leave, because they would see it as basically damaging their future.
So when I started to work there in 2016, I was only on a rolling 1-year contract, so every year they were renewing my contract, and on the end of the third year, just 3 months before my contract expired, they've announced they are going to close the factory and the business in UK, and that's it. I've met a lot of Romanian people, to say like that. Some of them, they said that they don't have what to do here left, and they are moving back to Romania.
When we voted Brexit, and the Japanese government wrote to us, the people of Great Britain, and said, if you do this Brexit, then we're going to take our money out from the car plants here. It's incredible that it's been so underreported, that this massive company, which really has been the bedrock of Swindon, is closed. It's closed now, and there's really been no media reports on it at all. So right now the narrative, the focus has been on Nissan up in Sunderland, and what an amazing Brexit success it is. I mean, I don't understand why it is a success in that we're having to bail them out. When we had to bail out Northern Rock, everyone was concerned about it. The fact that we're actually having to subsidise them is extraordinary. And then we've got no coverage of what's going on in Swindon and the closure of a massive, iconic car plant and thousands of jobs lost, and other businesses also, even just local pubs and restaurants, will really feel the pain of that business closing, and yet there's no media coverage. And why not? Why is that not being focused on? I suspect it's because there's such a drive to protect Brexit. Brexit is more important than Britain, it seems to me, despite the fact that there appear to be no upshots of Brexit whatsoever. I've been hunting high and low, and I haven't found one.
In these dark times that we find ourselves in, it's all too easy to feel passive and disengaged and hopeless. But there is something you can do. If you like the sound of a fearless, independent media outlet really trying to shine a light where the mainstream doesn't, then do sign up to Byline TV. You can hit the join button on YouTube or subscribe on Patreon. You can be part of driving meaningful change.